Good morning. This is a little help video for the second Desmos activity, which is for 12.2 notes. I thought I would go through this. I'm not doing all of it. I'm just going to give you a little bit of keys so that you guys don't get lost. I've noticed again that some people are having some issues with different parts, so this is a kind of little help video. First of all, this first page is just going over things that are mostly from what you've already done. Different new equation. Okay, it's called vertex form because it's going to tell you the vertex right away. There are letters A, H, and K. With the last one, it was A, B, and C, but we only did the A and C part. This is A, H, and K. This is the easiest form to graph. A, H, and K are going to be numbers. They could be decimals and fractions, but most of the time it's going to be numbers. So for example, in this first one, my A is 2. You guys should know from the first one that that's going to make the graph a little bit narrow. My H is always the opposite of that number, 5. And my K is always that number. And my vertex is 5, 3. It's basically just HK. So let me skip down to maybe this one down here. Now my A is -3, which is going to make this a sad graph, a little bit more narrow. My H is now -5. It's the opposite. And my K is 1. And it makes my vertex -5, 1. And let's go back to this one. My A would be 1 in this case because there's none. There always has to be a number in front. My H is 1, but my K is 0. So my vertex is 1, 0. Okay, so K is the actual number that H is always the opposite. Okay, this will ask you just different things about A, H, and K. So hopefully you can kind of understand. Really quickly, a K is positive. What does the graph? It moves the graph up. And this is going to move the graph down. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next page. On the next page, it's going to ask you A, H, and K, and then it's asking you to graph it, and it has a little table here. So in this case, A is 1, H is +1, opposite, and K is 2. And we are going to talk about the domain, the range, and everything. Well, I want you to understand that your vertex is 1, 2. What that vertex is going to do, it kind of tells you what numbers to put in. So 1 is going to be the middle point. So what I tell people to do is pick 2 numbers above 1 and 2 numbers below 1. So I'm going to pick -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. That way 1 is my middle number. Okay, it's a little bit harder to plug in. So if you plug in -1, -1 minus 1 is -2. -2 squared is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. If you plug in 0, 0 minus 1 is -1. -1 squared is 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. Remember that 3, 1, 3 pattern? We're going to see that again. Plug in 1, that's 0 plus 2, which is 2, which is your H and K. Plug in 2, that's 1 squared, which is 1, 3. Again, it will repeat. I made it very symmetrical. And if you plug in 3, that's 2, 4, 6. Very symmetrical. Domain, always all reals for these. You can put any number in. And then range is going to be based on where we're on the graph. So let's graph this first. -1 is 6. 0 is 3. 1 is 2. 2 is 3. And 3 is 6. See, very symmetrical. 1, 3, again, we'll talk about this later, but you can do 1, 3, 5. So the next one will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And very symmetrical. And that's what my first graph would look like. So this one is my purple. Now range, if you watch the other video, range is from the lowest point or the highest point, this is a minimum, where it's going, and it's going up. So everything is greater than or equal to that value, and that value is 2. That's your K value. Your range will always be your K value. So you're going to complete this other range. You're going to talk about some patterns you observe. Again, hopefully you can use the vertex, use this to be the middle point of your graph, to help you graph them, so they're very symmetrical. You can also use it at Desmos to check it out. You don't have to use Desmos to do this, but I would tell you to use Desmos to double check your graph looks right. Okay, last page. So on the last page, you're also going to go to Desmos. You're going to graph the equation, and you're going to see some things. And I'm just going to talk about one of these. I will talk about, I'll just talk about the first one. It's easiest. My H is 4, always the opposite. My K is 1. My vertex is 4, 1. This is opening up because A is 1. So this is going to be the minimum point. So it's going to be the point at the down. We haven't talked about this. This is called AOS, axis of symmetry. Sorry, sometimes it's called line of symmetry. It's a line that's going to cut in half, which everything is symmetrical, and it's always your H value. Just to go back really quick, line of symmetry here on this graph would have been this line right in the middle. And that one in the middle at 1, and that was our H value, 1. Domain is all reals, and your range is Y. Because it's opening up, it's going to be the bottom point, the minimum, so it's greater than, it's always your K value. So this is your H, and this is your K. That's why this is called the best form to graph it in. So it gives you a lot of information. Now, you can graph this on Desmos and get the idea. I'm going to show you guys how you can graph it without using Desmos real quick. This is what I would do. I'd go to the vertex, which is 4, 1. I know everything is symmetrical to that, and I know it's opening up. So because A is 1, it's going to have that pattern where the next point is going to go up 1, and then it go up from here, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the next one will go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5. Now, be careful. That only works if A is 1. And you should see that the line of symmetry that's cutting this graph in half is at 4. Now you can also graph it, but so that just, you don't say you don't understand what I'm doing. Let's put in 1. I should get 10. So if I put in 1, 1 minus 4 is -3. -3 squared is 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. And if you know this point, then you know the point on the other side. If that's 3 away at 10, that's 3 away at 10. And it gives you a very symmetrical graph. I hope this helps you with the Desmos activity and the next worksheet. If I feel like a lot of people are asking questions, I may add some more things to it. But let's go to the last page. The last page is going to ask you to fill out some stuff. It's asking you, I'm sorry this is so long, it's a very long activity. It's going to ask you how is H and K related to the line of symmetry and the axis of symmetry, and the vertex and all that, and it asks you to write your own form and see where things are. And then it's going to ask you to do this. I'm just going to do these a little bit with you. So my vertex with this would be 13, 8. Because H and K. Remember, H is the opposite. The equation of line of symmetry, if you remember from my last page, is always your H value. And it's always X equals. So it would be X equals 13. A lot of people just put, oh, 13. But it's a line, so you have to have an equation. Okay? And it doesn't matter if you have this -3 in front. The vertex is still HK. Line of symmetry is still X equals -3. That's just going to make the graph skinny. Okay, last thing, I'm just going to talk about this. You're going to see some things. These are translations of how it would be moved. And it's going to talk about how is this graph different than just a normal graph. This is called a parent graph. It's normal. The line of symmetry is right at the y-axis, x equals 0. It's not narrow, it's not wide, it's very normal. What if you put a 3 in the parentheses and a -2? Well, you should know that that 3 is going to make your vertex at -3, -2, opposite. So that's going to move it left 3 and down 2. So you're going to look for that left 3 and down 2. That is what that's saying. It's moving every x value to the left 3, minus and 3. Okay. So this is D. So you guys can continue that. It's the same type of thing. Again, let me know if you guys have any questions at any time. Good luck. And I will post probably a video sometime later this week. Thank you. Bye.